will go ahead and cover two things right now. So number one of the things I want to cover that I mentioned earlier this morning in the Automated Coaching Engine channel is what we're going to be releasing very shortly, probably in the next day or two, I would say, is we have refilmed the entire course and we're restructuring it based off of, prior experiences and being able to see what was priority, what's necessary, and what's not necessary. We were able to really figure out how we can jam pack as much value as possible to you guys and make it consumable and not too much, not too many videos, not too overwhelming, anything like that. So there's going to be kind of a transitional period that I'll just kind of let you guys know now that we are going to be switching over the course, and there might be some stuff where if you guys, can't find any of the videos, just let us know. We'll make sure to point you in the right direction. There might be like a day or two of us kind of like making sure that we have all the pieces in place, but I think it's a very necessary move for us to make sure that we have, given you guys the most value possible and giving you information on all different types of topics that will help you in your coaching business outside of what we're doing here in lead gen. So like our goal is to really position you guys in not just our team running lead gen for you, but also help you with all the strategies that you need outside of lead gen to put you in the best position to win. So there's tons of, stuff about content creation, stuff about building a brand, stuff about sales, stuff about building an offer, tons of different content in there for you guys to consume that will be a lot easier and a lot more straightforward to consume. So I'm excited to get that pushed out to all of you guys. It won't be a new course link or anything like that, so it's nothing to worry about too much. It'll pretty much be a overnight shift for you guys where you'll just log in and have new videos, which will be nice. But there might be some times where you guys are looking for certain videos and you need clarity. So if you do need any clarity on where those videos are during this time period, feel free to reach out to me. But I just wanted to kind of make that announcement. I'm super excited for it. We spent some good time the past few weeks putting it all together and really organizing it to the best ability so that you guys have everything that you need to win. So I'm excited to get that released to you guys. So what I'm going to be covering tonight for you guys is actually in the new course, but I wanted to cover it tonight anyway, because I know a lot of you guys have been hopping into consistent sales calls, and I want you guys to really understand how to deal with objections, because it's a huge topic, right? Like we all have dealt with it. If you've ever been on a sales call, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get an objection that is going to kind of push you away from the sale. So like, how do we deal with those objections and effectively communicate away from that, right? And the other night, if you guys were on the call, or the other day if you guys were on the call, I think it was Thursday, we covered the 2-call closing method, and we covered kind of, discovery questions and stuff like that. Jarvis, I know you have a call tomorrow, so I'll forward that training over to you so you can get an eye on it. But we talked a lot about the questions to ask in call number 1. The reason why that's so important is because we need to really understand where this person is at. Like we said, at the end of the day, I view a sales call as like we're the doctor and somebody's coming to us for a diagnosis. Like they're coming to us to tell us what their pain is, and we're providing a solution to that pain. Especially if we're in the transformational space, like we have to understand that that's really our job, is like solving the pain that they're experiencing, but also understand that pain leads to change. So if we're not understanding what this person's pain is, we're not going to be able to effectively convince them that they need to change. A lot of people we all know will kind of sit in pain, and they'll allow pain to take over their life for a long time before ever changing anything. So I want you guys to start to think about these sales calls as coaching calls to an extent. Like when we're on these sales calls, we have somebody in front of us who needs our help, and they're on the phone for a reason. We always tell our sales team that. It's like any coach that books a call with us, they're on the phone for a reason. They want to make more money, they want to help more people, and they want to, have a lot of fun doing it, right? So they're there for a reason. They're not just booking a call just to, like sit and chat. They're there because they have some sort of pain that they're trying to solve for. So in call number 1, it's really important for us to dive into that and figure out exactly what that pain is. Like understand that pain to the point where you're almost like, when you think of that person's name as a lead, you know exactly what their pain point is. That's really where you want to get to. But the reason why this becomes so important is because this is actually how you close. You close a deal based around the pain. So what a lot of people do, as you guys can see this chart that's right in front of you, it's a very basic chart. I'm not an artist. I'm not going to make this beautiful for you guys. So it's a very basic black and white flow chart here. But as you can see, it basically goes from, you pushing for the close, they object, you agree, and then you bring it back to pain before closing. So the common mistake that I see with any business, really, not just coaching businesses, but any business, is when they push for the close, an objection is brought up, and instead of agreeing and going to pain, most people just go back to closing, right? So like, for instance, let's say me and Kevin are on a sales call right now, and Kevin tells me, oh, like, I tell Kevin, like, it's going to be $5,000 to work with us. And then Kevin says, ooh, that's a lot of money. Like, I don't know if I can do that right now. And then I just go, well, how about 2,500 down right now? How's that sound? Right? I'm not handling the objection. The objection is the money piece, but you don't handle an objection by dropping the price. You handle the objection by figuring out what the pain is, or really effectively communicating the pain that leads to that change. So if I were to converse with Kevin right now, and Kevin said, hey, like, 5,000 seems a little bit pricey right now, but if I'm a fitness coach and I just went through this conversation with Kevin, and I know based off of my conversation with Kevin that he has to lose 20 to 30 pounds in the next 90 days because, he hasn't been able to be active with his kids. He's like approaching type 2 diabetes, like all these different things. If I know all these pain points about Kevin, then I can use those in the close. So like if I go for the close and he says, ooh, 5K is like a little bit much. And then I'm like, yeah, man, I totally understand. 5K is a lot of money, right? So I just agreed with him. Like, we always need to agree with any objection or any sort of backlash that we get on our offer. We always have to agree and then go to the pain. So yeah, Kevin, I totally understand. It's a lot of money. Let's be real. But, I know you mentioned to me that you got to cut 20 to 30 pounds so that you can be active with your kids. And you got to cut 20 to 30 pounds because you're heading towards type 2 diabetes. Like, I think you would agree that that would be, getting healthy so that you could spend active time with your kids would be worth 5,000. Don't you agree? Right? So if I go into that type of foundational approach to the sales process by going into agreeing with him, then going into the pain and then wrapping it back around to the close, I'm not negotiating the price, right? I'm just validating the price. I'm saying, hey, look, like, dude, it's a lot of money. Let's be real. But like, you've got all this stuff going on. Like, you've got to get fit for your kids. You've got to get fit for this. Like, I think that's worth the money, isn't it? So instead of me hitting down at the price and doing all that stuff by like working out payment plans and all that stuff, like, don't get me wrong. You can work out payment plans. It's an effective way to get deals done, but you have to do this before. So if I were to come back around, right? So if I were to agree, go to the pain and then go back to the close, and then Kevin said, yeah, I mean, you're right. Now I say, well, I know you just mentioned that 5K was a little bit too much. So what if we do a $2,500 deposit today? And then we do the rest in 45 days. Would that work a little bit better for you? So instead of me leading the objection, like as soon as I get the objection, I jump straight to offering a payment plan. Instead of doing that, I'm handling the objection and then I'm offering the payment plan, which is a little bit like, in general, like a little bit more like validating, right? It's like, I'm showing you why it's the right decision. And I'm also working with you because I know that it wasn't a money objection, right? We can't ignore the fact that like they brought up a money objection. We can still offer pricing plans, but we need to agree and we need to go to the pain before. So this framework will work for any sort of objection that you come across. Just keep this in your mind all the time on sales calls. Like, go for the close, they object, which they always will, agree, move to pain, and then go back to the close. So if I get a spouse objection, right? So I'm on a call and someone says, how's that sound, Kevin? And then Kevin says, well, it sounds pretty good, but I'm going to have to talk to my wife before making this decision. So instead of me saying, all right, like, well, let's just set up another call with your wife, right? Because we all know how that goes. It's like, if we get off the phone, people run away, we lose them forever. Like, it happens all the time, right? It happens all the time. So instead, I could set up an opportunity like this. Oh, yeah, no, I totally understand, Kevin. Like, the fact that you have that positive of a relationship with your wife shows the type of person that you are, and I commend you for that, right? But I know you mentioned that you wanted to cut these 20 to 30 pounds because of this and this, right? Because of these two pain points. So let me ask you this, Kevin, like, does your wife usually trust you with your financial decisions? Does she normally trust you? And then Kevin says, well, yeah, she normally trusts me. All right, well, what would you feel comfortable putting down right now so that I can get your commitment? And then we can set up a call with your spouse so that we can just get her on the same page. Does that sound fair? Right? So now what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging the fact that, like, I agree, Kevin. I understand that you have to talk to your spouse, and I fully recommend that. Like, definitely talk to your spouse. You don't want your spouse getting mad at you because you spent money, right? But, like, does she usually support your decisions? He's gonna say, like, yeah, she usually supports my decisions. Okay, cool. Well, like, what can you put down now to show me that you're committed, so that when we set up the call with your spouse, there's already an understanding and commitment here? Because, I only can work with X amount of people, and I need to make sure that I'm making the best use of my time, right? The thing with sales is, like, sales in general can feel pretty weird. I think we can all agree about that. Like, it's definitely a sticky situation with any sort of business. It's like anything financial, we've been conditioned for a long time is like a weird scenario to deal with. But understand the fact that, like, we see past the money, right? In sales, we need to see past the money. It's like, at the end of the day, we have somebody who's experiencing pain in their life and they need our help, and we need to effectively show them how we can help them. And we need to effectively help them make that decision, because understand this too. It's important to also understand the fact that if someone isn't in the right state, they're not going to be able to make the right decision for their future, right? So if somebody is depressed, if somebody does have anxiety, if somebody does have, like, these certain things that a lot of us coach through, if they do have those sorts of things going on in their life, they're not going to be able to make an effective decision unless we help them make that decision. But the problem becomes is a lot of us will go for the close, and when we get the spouse objection, or if we get the money objection, we kind of just fall back. Like, no, I understand. Like, I completely understand. Well, when you get the money, go ahead and reach out to me, right? But it's like, as we know, that usually just ends there, right? Like, there's not much that comes out of that. So, we've gone through this a lot with our sales team internally, because like, we have to get to the point where we're handling objections, and, like, at the end of the day, us spending time on the phone, we need to be getting something out of that. We're spending time on here, we've got a lead in front of us that needs our help. We need to be able to effectively communicate how to get through this. So what's just curious, just so we can role play this, and, like, what are some objections that you guys have gotten for your services? Anybody can unmute if you want to, but for your guys' services that are on this call live, what type of objections have you received in the past?
Yeah, for me, I know, Mike, it's almost always about the money. As I say, it's always about the money, right? So I know, and we've talked too about the two-step call, right? So I try to implement the two-step call, and on the first call, I also want to try to I also implement in the first call where, after I expose what their struggles are, what their pain points are, I also want to let them know that I've been there, I understand what they're going through, and I've also tried. I asked them what they've tried before, and usually they've tried, somebody else's meal plan or somebody else's program kind of thing. And usually I say, I've been there. I've tried all the cookie cutter $100 or $200 plans out there, and believe me, they don't work. And that's where I can tie in that, $200 here is not going to do it, right? So I'm kind of, subliminally putting that into their head that this isn't going to be $200 here. And then I tie that into down the road where I'm going to go, when they actually find out my price and my plan,
100%. And like, I would say this too, like, and a lot of people who do, like one-on-one, more so, a lot of this is like more prevalent in life coaching and stuff like that. But those of you that might have experience in that, that like the most powerful way to coach in that type of scenario, like through somebody's mindset, is by asking effective questions, right? Asking effective questions puts people in a state where they have to actually like think pretty deeply about it.
And I also
Go
think
ahead.
it's important to anchor their feelings to the package too, is to anchor that for them.
100%. Yeah, and in that, it's like, right, when we're in these scenarios and someone, like, if it's a potential price objection, right, like to Kevin's circumstance and what you were mentioning about bringing it up and starting to kind of like, price anchor and leave it in there as like, I've tried all the cookie cutter stuff. It's like asking them, one question you can ask Kevin aside from that is like, what have you tried? And like, why do you think it hasn't worked for you? Right? So why do you think it hasn't worked for you? They're going to say, well, I mean, and they're going to think it's going to be a little bit awkward. And they're going to be like, well, maybe I didn't stick to it 100%. So now the actual problem is consistency and discipline. It's not the program. It's the discipline and the consistency of action, right? So now you can dive into that. It's like, well, look, man, like, odds are if you have spent money on these like lower level programs, you probably didn't have a lot of support, right? So now you can kind of tailor it to the fact that like you're going to help them through it. You're going to hold their hand. You're going to be the support system. You're going to hold them accountable. And that's what's really going to effectively communicate that,
Yeah, totally. I I agree. I like to tie in my two calls, like to tie in, the biggest 5 obstacles that most people have with losing weight. And before I even do that, though, I get their struggles and find out what their struggles are. And usually it's the very same thing as those 5 things. And then I show them how my program is based on handling all those 5 things. And then I'm finding out what their specific struggles are, writing those down, like, what have you tried right now? Why do you think it hasn't worked? Why did you come to me? What did you find, that you liked about me or my group? And then I tie it into the second call where when we get to my cost, because I'll often say, like, there's going to be a cost, whatever decision you make here, there's going to be a cost. Whether you join my program, there's a cost. And if you decide not to join my program, there's going to be a cost. And that's where I'm going to relay what their pain is, right? So there's a cost if you can't fix this and you get diabetes. There's a cost if you can't fix this and you're not able to work or provide for your family. So you're right, there is a cost to this, but it's up to you to decide which one you want.
100%. Yep. Opportunity cost, like all those things are going to be huge in effectively communicating that. 100%. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, don't get me wrong, right? There's a lot of people out there that are like, anything is closable. I think there's definitely circumstances that are unclosable if someone's not in enough pain to change, So like that's where I really tie into this chart here is the importance of just like really effectively communicating that pain. It's like the more that they sit in that and like it's uncomfortable, it's not like a lot of fun to bring that stuff up, but it's what's going to get them to the point where they are going to acknowledge the fact that a change needs to happen, So I think that's a really solid way to work it, Kevin. Good work.
Yeah,
I like
ultimately,
it.
I'm trying to get them to understand that they've tried this on their own for so many years and frustrated. And ultimately, now's your opportunity here, right? So I can bridge this gap between knowing what to do and actually making it happen in your life, right? And that's what my 12 week program does. So
Yeah.
maybe it should be a 12-step program.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I really want to, as I'm going through that first call, I want to expose all those pain points, right? That the bigger, the better. And then I'm writing those down and I'm saving those for the second call where I'm going to give them some coaching to give them some steps that they can now take on their own. Because that's my thing. I'm going to give you some free coaching here. And hey, now's your opportunity. You can go on your own, or you can, certainly come on board with me and we're going to work through these things together. and take away all the guesswork that you're having to do and you've tried to do. Like you've told me, you've tried this for many years now on your own. And we want to take all that guesswork away and, work on this together.
Yeah, 100%. And like one of the big things that we've noticed internally with our offer is like trying to get away from having leads or potential sales, like people that are on the phone or on Zoom, trying to get them away from logically viewing our offer and viewing it more emotionally, right? Because the problem becomes is like if we get too much into strategy, it's like something that we got into in the past. We were still closing deals off it. It was still working, but in the past, like we would be heavy on like, this is the strategy that we run and this is what we do. And it triggers the analytical mind, right? So the analytical mind is looking into that offer and it's thinking like, I don't really like this piece. Oh, I don't really like this piece. And then when we sell emotionally and we're just hitting pain points and like the things that they want, the goals that they're looking for, and we just really focus on that, and then also effectively communicating the offer in alignment with what they want, not just what we want the program to be communicated as, but what they want out of the program. It's like, how do we effectively communicate that to the point where everybody who is on the call, it feels like the exact solution for them, and it's about tailoring that to what they're experiencing, what their goals are. And if like, for instance, if you're on the phone with somebody who says, I gotta lose 50 pounds, like the 20 to 30 pound pitch isn't gonna work too well. Like they want the 50 pounds, right? And like we don't want to do it to the point where it's like not something that we can fulfill. But we also want to be able to communicate the fact that like if that's what they want, our offer needs to be in alignment with that. Same kind of thing where like if we're doing a life coaching offer or something like that, then if this person has anxiety, we don't want to pitch them on how to move away from depression, right? Like they didn't say they had depression, they said they had the anxiety, right? So like we need to really make sure that when we are presenting our offer, it's not cookie cutter, right? Like it's tailored to who's in front of us and what their problems are. So I think there's a lot of solid structure in that, Kevin. I like it.
Yeah,
but
that's a great point.
Go ahead.
You made a great point there, tying it into really keeping in mind, because oftentimes I will I'll start talking too much, right? And that's often a thing that I find is I'll try to just, shut up and just ask them questions and then start to let them talk. And if they're not talking, I'm just going to ask them another question. And then I find what sometimes will work is I'll just be quiet and even awkwardly quiet. And especially when they find out the price of my program. And before I even do the price of the program, I want to let them know, I want to talk about the cost. There's going to be a cost either way. Here's going to be my cost, and there's going to be a cost whatever you decide. But also, you can now decide, to come on board with me, or you can try what you've been trying and go on your own, or you can come on board with me. So, and then just be quiet, and then just wait for them to talk.
Yeah, 100%. That's the price drop. Like the biggest difference in our sales team's closing ratios has been off of like zipping the mouth when they drop the price. Like price of the program is this, and just look at it, just stare, just smile and stare. And like it's a very valid claim with sales, because it's like a lot of times we say, oh, the price of the program is $2,000, but the reason why it's that is, and now we're starting to validate the price. We're starting to try and convince them why the price is worth it. Whereas if we just drop the price and we just don't say anything, there's a good chance that they're just going to say, well, like, do you have any pricing plans, or like what, what I mean? Like that's usually what comes, because there's no real, if we've already done an effective communication up until this point, there's no real answer for them outside of like, what are the payment plans, or like, yeah, I'm ready to go, right? So that's really what we have to focus on, is building up until that point, building up until that price drop, so that when we do drop that price, the only real options that come to their head are what are the payment plans, or yes, I'm ready to go, like send a full, I'll pay it all right now, right? And another thing that I want to mention with this is, depending on where you're doing your calls, we recently shifted over to all of our first calls being on phone calls, primarily just because it's like what we noticed was show up rate. Like a lot of people were not showing up to appointments that were on Zoom, primarily because I think people think about like, oh, I need my hair right, I need this right, I need a good background. Like they start to think about all these things doing a Zoom call. Whereas a phone call, you know, somebody could be in the grocery store and yeah, they're not like 100% there, right? But like if it's the first call, we're just building rapport anyway. So we might as well do it on the phone and then set the appointment for a Zoom call to do the closing call, right? But one of the things to keep in mind, if we are doing either a phone call or a Zoom call, is communication that's had in between our words, right? So like body language, head nodding, like all of those things are going to influence decision. Like I'm a huge communication nerd, and like with communication, it's like nodding, smiling, like all those things are going to affect your message. It's going to affect how people are responding to it. So, you know, like one of the things I always did when I was on sales calls for us was like, I was just like smiling the whole time. Like I was just ear to ear, like, yeah, like 100%, because it's like, I have that type of energy on the call, right? Like someone's like, yeah, this is cool. Like I like being around this person, right? And that's part of coaching, is like people by people. So they want to work with somebody that they feel drawn towards, that they enjoy being around, especially a coach. So, you know, like thinking about those other types of communications, it's not just our words. It's also our body language. It's also our mannerisms. It's also like on the phone, you could do it with like oh yeah, like 100%. Yeah, I agree. Right. Like those different things it's subconsciously telling the person on the other side, like, I'm here with you. I'm listening. I'm here. Right. Because we can't show it. So we have to use our words to kind of let them know. But if we're on Zoom, it's all about like, first off, like how we're portraying ourselves on there, right? Like obviously, you know, we want to make sure that we're put together, there, present, like paying attention, listening, but then the body language attached to it, like nodding a lot, because what that's going to do is it's going to bring in a yes subconsciously. They're going to think more about yes. And then the other thing that we've talked about, I think previously on calls, but I always like to bring up, is consistently temp checking. So temp checking is basically like making sure that they're still with you, right? So while you're having your conversation, while you're asking questions or whatever the case may be, or if you just spoke for a minute straight saying like, does that make sense? Like, does that sound fair? Those types of things, it's going to make sure that it's like, I want to make sure that you're with me, right? I want to make sure that we're both on the same page and that you're getting along here the whole time, right? Because a lot of times, you know, people will ramble and they'll just keep going, go on to the next topic. And someone might have like misunderstood something that was here, but because you're way over here, like you already lost that. You can't go back to that confusion. And any sort of confusion within the buying process is going to affect the sale. So if they were confused about something that was over here, but we already are over here with the price drop, then we lost the opportunity to solve this confusion. So that's the thing that we want to think about, is if we can, you know, provide feedback with these calls, speak, you know, like deliver value, just like you're saying, Kevin, like give people value, right? Like give them a ton of value, but then also make sure they understand each piece of that so that there isn't confusion that causes anything at the end, right? So like these are all different things we want to think about within sales that are kind of not your like surface level sales material, right? It's like, it's not the script, it's not the, you know, the words to say, but it's the things that you don't think about that affect the sale. And it's like, even on a coaching call like this, right? If I wasn't effectively communicating this in a confident, certain manner, then you guys probably wouldn't be taking in the information the way that you are. right? So even with that, even with coaching, even with working with clients one-on-one or in a group setting, how can we effectively communicate to the point where people are receiving our message? And we have to think about that on sales calls as well. Any questions from you guys down there, Austin, Mike?
No, all good to go. Everything's just putting the pieces together.
Cool.
Hey, Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we still going to be using like Descript, do you think, or?
I would say I'll look into your numbers tomorrow just to make sure, but I'll give you the go ahead to cancel it if it's something we're not going to use.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll do a deep dive into that. Cool. So everybody kind of understands this framework in general, has like taken some mental notes or some physical notes around this. Cool. Well, I'm open for any sort of communication from here. So I'll open it up to you guys. Do you guys have any questions at all in any sort of anything, business, personal? What you got? Hit me with it.
Nothing.
That must have been a good ass session if we have no questions. I'll tell you that.
I just have a quick question about the curriculum, Mike. The videos. So I know that you're in the midst of upgrading or revising them. So is like, because I'm just starting, is there like I'm already through where the webinar is, but is there a sense of continuing, or should I be waiting for the new material?
So I would, if you're already at the webinar stage, I would continue with that. So have you already started working on the webinar framework yet or no?
That's my plan this week. Like I just went through it this weekend.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think so I have a new webinar template that I put into place with this new refresh that I think would be really good for you to dive into. So
Okay.
once the videos are all like set in there, it should probably be in the next day or so. I'll forward you over to that. But yeah, I mean, I would really like your focus right now would be around the webinar. You don't have to go much further than that. Just focusing on the webinar for now, and then we'll give you the next steps once that's completed.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Hey, Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do any one of your students maybe dive into, like, of course we focus on high-end coaching, right, to make our business model work. What about adding in like on the lower end, like if I've been approached like with companies that maybe want to offer me their product or maybe promote their product kind of thing, like like offer other kind of maybe another revenue stream that's on the other side of it. So we have the maybe the $2,500 high-end coaching package, but then I have nothing really else besides that as far as products go. But if I wanted to, what's your thought on that?
Is that as far as like brand deals type of thing, like people wanting you to promote their like kind of like supplements and stuff like that?
Yeah, some kind of supplements and stuff. Like, I mean, it's critical to me to first off maintain my brand and what I'm all about. So it has to be like, good, good stuff that I actually use and that kind of thing. But like I'm not there yet. But I've been approached by some folks about that kind of stuff, and just wondering about your thoughts on that. Because brand integrity isn't big with me. I'm not going to go, just make a few $100 to sell a product that I don't really believe will work for somebody. But
Yeah, 100%. That's really like was gonna be my message when you first brought it up, was just making sure that it's in alignment with like what your message is in general. Because if it's something that it's like supplements, it's something that's in alignment with your coaching business and that you can kind of drop here and there. As long as it's something you agree with, I don't see any problem in it at all. Like I think it honestly, it can raise validity depending on the scenario, raise the credibility of like, hey, I work with this company. Like branding deals are always good. Just making sure that they're something that you would want to promote to your audience, you know?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I just had a quick question. If I build my webinar, just because I do native shamanic healing, so if I did a webinar based on healing and actually doing like a ceremony in the webinar, would that be like enticing, or is that maybe too deep?
I think that's pretty cool. I think let's I'll shoot you a message after this. Let's set up a quick one-on-one to talk about that, because I'd be interested to hear like what your idea is and how that can be implemented.
Yeah, I'm just like, I was thinking of like really invoking emotion and like with the music and kind of, and that's it. And then I was wondering, because I have 3 offers, do I need to do 3 different webinars for them?
No, so what would you say like are the differences in those 3 offers? Are they a different clientele, or are they a different like end goal?
They're slightly a different end goal and different clientele, just because one is like an awakening period, one's a healing session, and then one's like an enlightened love for self, and others kind of. So it's kind of like films.
Makes sense. Yeah. So what I would probably do is think about kind of having one as like a centralized core offer. Like, do you see any of them as like an entry point to another offer, or are they kind of like, one of them's okay.
The healing. Yeah, the healing.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and what's the price point on that one?
$35.99.
Cool. Yeah. So I would say I would probably lead with that one and go like Ascension Model, since you're already like high ticket with your offers. I would lead with the thing that kind of indoctrinates, because like the best thing that you can do with building your coaching business is kind of like ascend people through the steps, right? So since I usually don't say, like in most cases, I don't tell people to use the Ascension Model, but that's mainly because a lot of people, their Ascension Model is like $100 product to a $500 product to a $1,000 product. But with you already having all these offers in place that are higher ticket, I would say to kind of go with that, where the healing is kind of their entry point that they get into. And then you can use that as the foundational piece to then push them into the next program when that's over, you know?
Incredible. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. And I'll let me just, before I forget, I'm going to send you a message so we can set up that call.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Of course. Munir in the building. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, man. I just tested out this new Instagram shout out method, and I got 5 calls for tomorrow, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I spent like $450 on shout outs, and I have actually 2 more shout outs on all 3 pages coming later this week. But off the first one, I already got 5 calls, which is very promising. So I'm pretty excited.
Nice. And did you do like, they were fitness pages, shout outs?
Yeah, there were fitness pages. So there were like, I hit up a bunch of fitness pages, and like the biggest thing is like, you want to make sure that obviously like you check their audience country insights. So it's not people from like countries where the GDP is a little bit lower. And for the ones that were mostly US, I just like hit them up. Most of the pages only charged me like $30, but there's one that like upcharged me. So I was like, okay, this page is probably better because it's higher ticket. And then they ended up giving me the shittiest like shout out returns. So ironically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's like that.
Dog calling.
Yeah, but that used to be like huge. Like I used to see that a lot, and I still see people taking advantage of it. I was considering testing a few. I haven't yet, but we do have connections to a lot of like pages that do shout outs and stuff like that.
Big time. One thing is because like I got the idea from Tanner Chittister, and so what I did was I went to his page and I looked at posts that he's tagged in, and I actually found one of the pages that he uses for shout outs. So I kind of modeled some of my stuff after him. So I mean, I feel like that's the same niche as you guys, which is B2B. So that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I actually grabbed his, like, when he was running the Black Friday like $7 course for the IG shoutouts. I'm always like snagging those just to kind of see, like, I'm a student of the game at the end of the day. I don't really care who it is, I'll learn. So yeah, I dove into that, and like it's some interesting stuff. I think it's something that could be some potential. So you said you spent how much on them?
So I spent so one of the pages was $100 for 3 shoutouts. Another one was the same price. And the page that kind of upcharged me was $260 for 3 shoutouts. And the page that I paid $260 actually messed up my post, so I called them out on it, and they said, okay, sorry, we'll post it properly tomorrow. And they deleted it. But from the 2 pages alone that did the shoutouts, so you could theoretically say that the cost for that was $67 to do those 2 shoutouts. I got, I think, 35 to 40 followers. And I also got, so I generated a bunch of conversations. Like I had, like 20 DMs in my inbox, and I kind of qualified them out. Like if they were like a teenager, or if they were from like India, or like, Chile or something. I actually took a call from a guy who was from Dubai, but unfortunately he was broke. But, but my 5 calls tomorrow, 3 are US, 2 are guys in their 30s where they probably have money. And then 2 are from Europe, from Italy and Switzerland, which aren't the richest countries. But yeah, I mean, cost per call is like, based on what we're seeing so far, $20 per call. Which is really
yeah, that's solid. Yeah, no. So for anybody that's listening, kind of the framework around this is like finding Instagram pages who have high amounts of followers in a specific niche. So for instance, since like Munir's in the fitness space, reaching out to fitness pages that have a lot of followers and reaching out to them to do shout outs. So essentially how that works is like creating some sort of creative that's like a DM me a certain word for more information, having some effective copy that goes alongside that, and having them pay. You pay to play, obviously. You pay the pages to shout you out, but you can potentially get some good leads. So it'll be cool to see how that plays out. Keep us updated on how that goes. I think it's interesting. Like it's something that we've thought about. I haven't taken action on it yet, but just because right now we have the ad funnel that's working pretty well for us, but I'm still like, any lead channel that brings in revenue is money to me. So I could care less what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
But awesome. Cool. Anybody else have any questions on anything, or any comments, concerns, anything like that?
I actually did want to add one thing for Kevin. I put it in the chat, and maybe you guys already said this because I dipped out for a sec, but maybe if you downsold like the course minus the coaching, if you have like a course as part of your offer, that's what I do if people are broke. Like I'll just sell them the course for like, anywhere from $47 to $300, depending on what they have, just so I can recoup for my time that I spent on the call, and that could be beneficial.
Yeah, that's cool, Munir. Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about that weekend 2 weeks ago, even about a downsell where I can do something like that, which won't involve a lot of my time, but just going to my course kind of thing. So what do you do as far as like price point for that, Munir?
So I mean, for the course, just because it takes none of my time, it's just basically free money for giving them something that's going to help them. I usually try to get $300 for it, but I'll go as low as $47. But that's if somebody's like just truly too broke. Like if somebody comes in, they're like, yeah, I make $1,200 a month, and I'm like 19, I'm a student. Then I'll be like, oh crap, I won't even take like a second call with them. I'll just let them know that my coaching is expensive. Just say, yeah, I mean, my coaching is anywhere from $4,800 to $3,200. So it's gonna be out of price range for you. But I still feel like you could use some help. So I actually have a course. This the entire coaching, the $4,000 coaching program minus the coaching and like access to me, and it's just a course. So are you motivated? Okay, you're motivated. So do you need somebody to follow up with you? Oh, no, you don't? Okay, great. Well, then I'll just give you the info, and I'll just bring it down to like $300. I'll give you 90% off. And they're like, oh shit. And so you kind of sell them on the idea that, because you get them like kind of pre-sell themselves like, oh yeah, I'm motivated enough to do this on my own, which you don't want to do on an actual sale. But like, if you've already kind of financially qualified them out, you just kind of pump them up where it's like, oh yeah, I could do this on my own. I just need the right info. Okay, great. Well, here's the course, $300, 90% off. And then it makes the offer sound good.
Totally. That's a great idea. Thanks for that. Because I do already have that set up. I got the back end of that set up. So absolutely, that'd be an easy downsell to get some no time investment for me, some money there for sure. And maybe then get the upsell later on, right? If they start taking your course, maybe hey, just following up here for you, maybe a few weeks later kind of thing, and see how they're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Is like the best way to ascend that too is like, hey, the good news is like whatever you put down right now is going to go towards the cost of my program, right? So like if they pay $300 for the course, it's like, hey, that $300 comes out of my upper level program. So if you hit the lottery tomorrow, dude, like come to me and you'll get $300 off. You know, like instead of like a lot of people, you know, it's like, oh, you have to pay X amount even though you bought this. Like you still have to pay that amount. But if you take it as the ascension of like, yeah, it goes towards the program, it also adds that like extra layer of incentive for them to purchase.
Oh, big time. Like, whatchamacallit, Sam Evans' team downsold me actually on a pretty high ticket thing because they were like, okay, the program's like, I think it was like 6,800 and, or maybe it was 7,800. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really feel like this is the best thing for me because I want a done for you thing, which is why I signed up for this. And the guy was like, well, no worries. But I did like the consultant. It was David Dre and he's very good. So I was like, well, you know, since the offer comes with, you know, you coaching me, how much would it be for you to just coach me? And he's like, yeah, we could just do it for 2,000 and I'll give you a discount on the program when you are ready. And that kind of like sold me in, even though I kind of regret that $2,000 purchase. I'm like, hey, I didn't actually get the value out of this. I got more value out of the sales call, honestly. You know, it's still like, I mean, he got my money. So I'm always investigating the buyer psychology when I buy stuff. And I'm like, okay, what works from this and what can I apply to myself? So that's an example of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, that's a huge win for sure. Even getting like the experience to see that, like that's why I'm always like putting myself in sales scenarios too, is to see how other people are processing. I'll always like opt into different shit on the internet. Like I've got all these like backup emails. I've got like 6 backup emails, and I'll be opting in with like fake info to see like what their email follow-up campaigns are like, and like if I get texts, if I get calls, like I'm constantly bombarding all different types of stuff to see what processes are looking like.
Definitely. Kevin, are you also in fitness?
I am, yeah. So I do basically my demographics basically guys over 40 that want to lose some body fat and get back in shape. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a good niche, man. Yeah, it's kind of funny because and Mike, we can talk about this on our one-to-one tomorrow, but I was almost feeling like, because right now I'm trying to go after real estate guys who want to get in shape because that's what I've gotten with outbound before, but the response rate's been a bit low. So I was thinking if we were to have this other go into fitness groups and just comb through all the people till they find the real estate people who are in fitness groups, that might be a good way to like stack the avatar, because she's finding good avatars, just they don't seem to be interested in fitness. So I don't know, a bunch of ideas.
Yeah, totally. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of my outreach has been like because there's definitely a lot of Facebook groups for like, you know, fitness after 40 and fitness after 50, those kind of things, right? So kind of going into those, and I would do a lot of posts in there for myself, like just post in there as a group member, and because they may have like 10 or 15 or 29,000, you know, members, right? So you make your post on there, you do a transformation post on there kind of thing, and you wait for replies, and then you kind of DM them on the back end kind of thing, right? So yeah, absolutely. And for my direct outreach, you know, there's been a lot of, I think we've been kind of targeting a lot of like golfers kind of thing. So, you know, just kind of see what numbers come back for that. But because golfers are kind of my, you know, usually middle-aged guys, right? And, you know, a lot of golfers aren't really like, you know, going to the Olympics per se as far as how they look. So yeah, checking that out, see what the results come back at.
Damn, that's sweet. Yeah, I remember there was a guy in a mastermind I was in previously who was running ads to golfers, and he was absolutely crushing it because his offer was so specific to like the performance metrics they want, the fat loss they want, all that stuff. He was just dominating. It was crazy.
And that's all it is at the end of the day, you know, like with messaging is like, it's just tweak until that perfect messaging with the perfect audience is caught. You know, like once that happens, it takes off pretty fast. And like the time span of that happening is different in every circumstance. And sometimes it's just a tweak of, you know, like, just like Munir just said, like the end result of what the person wants, you know? And that's what we have to think about on the front end with lead gen is like, what does this person actually want? Like not just the weight loss, but what do they want out of the weight loss? You know, like what is that contributor on the other side? What are they going to gain from that weight loss? Which ties with pain points, like we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I feel like it's kind of funny because like in the marketing, you just want to like create enough desire to get them on the call, and then on the call you go into their specifics where it's like what's really making you tick. And actually, I recently brought on a sales guy who's very good. Oh my god, this guy's world class. I remember there was this lead that I triaged, and this guy was like super surface level. And when my guy was like diving in, he managed to get this guy to crack and say, hey, the real reason I want to get in shape is because when I go to the bar, I'm like a little chubby and I almost feel like who would want this, or like I don't get that many matches on Tinder. And so we got his deep dark secret, and my guy was able to expand that and get this guy like going from like, you know, surface level, like, I just need some meal plans, to being like, bro, I need this 3,200. Those numbers make sense. Fuck, I just don't have the money. Like, it was crazy. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
I mean, to that point, man, like pain causes change. If you can figure out what the pain is and like it's the real pain, right? Because like that's the other hard part is all of us know, especially like people on here that are doing like one-on-one coaching and with like the mindset side and like life coaching and shit like that. We know that like a lot of people give like smoke and mirrors. You know, it's like, but they'll give you like a pain point, but then there's something that's deeper that's tied to that to that extent. You know, it's like he was probably just saying like, yeah, I want to cut some weight because like I'm chubby, you know, like, and he might have just been saying that for a bit, but he got him to crack and actually say what the real reason was. Like, what was the drive, right? Like, why did he want to get fit? He wanted to get fit because when he was at the bar, he wanted to look attractive. He wanted to, you know, like his drive was women at the bar. You know, like, so like finding out what that actual drive is behind cutting the weight. Because sometimes, as we know, I mean, especially in fitness, cutting the weight isn't enough for people to make a change. Sometimes it's not just about the weight. It's something deeper that's tied to that. Or else everybody would be skinny and fit, right? So yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind.